In this video, I'll show you how to install Hypertrace on your laptop. The default installation of Hypertrace is the same version Traceable uses and runs at scale. It is made up of multiple services and databases which run in Docker containers in Kubernetes. You'll find instructions for running in clouds such as AWS, Google, and Azure under the deployment section of our online docs. To make it easy for you to run on your laptop, we've created a Docker Compose install file which will run Hypertrace in Docker Desktop on your Mac or Windows computer. You can also run it with Docker Engine on any flavor of Linux. In this case, I'll run Hypertrace on my MacBook using the instructions found on the Getting Started page of Hypertrace docs. To find them, go to our online docs or just click on the Getting Started link at hypertrace.org. There are a couple prerequisites, such as Docker Engine, which you get with Docker Desktop. Click on this link and install the version that is right for you. You will also need the Git command line tools. And since Hypertrace runs in 6 containers, you'll need a little extra memory and CPU. The minimum required is 3 GB of RAM and 2 CPUs, but I recommend bumping that up a little to 4 GB and 3 CPUs. Okay, now that my prerequisites are installed, it's time to start Docker Desktop and then install Hypertrace. First, let me make sure Docker Desktop is running. Yep, there it is. Docker Desktop is running. Now I'll open up my terminal and navigate to my working directory where I can clone the Hypertrace repo using the text on this page. So let's scroll down here and let's grab the code to clone the Hypertrace repo. I'll move over into my working directory here in terminal. I'll paste that code. As you can see, it just pulled it down onto my hard drive. And now let's take a look into the Hypertrace folder. And you can see that there's a Docker folder and a Kubernetes folder. These folders have the files that you need to run Hypertrace on your laptop using Docker Compose or anywhere using the Kubernetes folder. We'll cd into the Docker folder, and here you can see that we have the files required to use Docker Compose. So you'll see that there's a Docker Compose YML file and another Docker Compose Zipkin example file. And the Zipkin example file deploys a hello world-like example that we borrowed from the Open Zipkin project. To run Hypertrace in Docker Desktop, run the Docker Compose pull command and wait for the images to download from Docker Hub. Again, you can copy that code right from the page, paste it into your terminal, and run it, and there you go. Now you can see that the images that we need to run Hypertrace have been downloaded onto your hard drive. Now let's run the second command and wait for all the Hypertrace services and the sample app to start. I'm going to launch with the sample app at the same time. So let me go grab that code. You can scroll down. You can skip the one in the first section, scroll down, and you'll see an example here where you can launch both the sample app and Hypertrace at the same time. So let's flip back over here and paste that double command, and you can see it launching. By default, Hypertrace runs in attached mode, and the output is quite verbose. This is going to take about 30 seconds or more to finish launching in all of the containers that you need to run Hypertrace. If you want to use your command line while Hypertrace is running, you'll need to open up another terminal window. This is going to take a little bit, so let me stop now and I'll come back in just a moment. At some point, you'll see Started Hypertrace UI Service at port 2020, which you can see right here. So to access Hypertrace on your laptop, you'll need to open localhost 2020 in your browser. That's a pretty light service, and there may be other services that aren't up and running yet, like Pinot, Kafka, or MongoDB. So to make sure all of the required services are up and running, you should wait for the output that says stack is up after X attempts. In fact, you can see that right here. You may see stack is not responsive after X attempts first, which just means that it is waiting for some of the services to completely load. It usually takes a few attempts, but I've seen it take as many as 20, and some take longer than others. If this goes on too long, then it is likely that you don't have at least 3 CPUs or your CPUs don't have enough gigahertz. We found that CPUs with less than 2 gigahertz can take too long and they time out. Now let's go to localhost 2020 to see the Hypertrace dashboard. Here you'll see latency, data, errors, calls per second, etc. But we won't see any data yet because there are no applications sending it traces. So let's open this simple sample app we installed at localhost 8081. This sample app is so simple that its backend service replies to the front end with only the date and time. But more importantly, it sends traces to Hypertrace. So let's refresh the page a few times to generate some more traces. Now, back in Hypertrace, the traces get enriched, and after about 5 seconds or so, if you click the refresh button, you should see the data appear. You may not see it right away because once the traces are ingested by Hypertrace, it enriches the data and now it shows up on the dashboard. With this enriched data, you can discover all of the instrumented services in the application flow. And you are able to perform ad hoc queries of the enriched data in the Explorer view. But more on those features in our next video. Now, when you're ready to shut everything down, go back to your terminal and type Control-C. Or run the docker compose down command to shut down Hypertrace and the sample app. And finally, you can click the up arrow and type down instead of up, and you'll be back to where you started. For more information about Hypertrace, please visit us at hypertrace.org. Don't forget to join our Slack community to get your questions answered, and share a screenshot of Hypertrace running on your laptop to earn a Test Pilot t-shirt.